Welcome in, and you are sitting courtside with Karli Bell, and I am so happy to have the unbelievable, awesome Shimmy Miller on to talk. You and I have always had fun on a desk talking hoops and talking everything, so I'm so glad you're here. Welcome, Shimmy.
Thank you, Karli. Thanks for having me. I enjoy this podcast. I listen to it each week. So I'm excited to be a guest.
Yeah, I'm excited to get into it. Okay, so before we go into that Sky game, which we could talk, 6 hours on, but we're not going to do that for our listeners here. Let's go through the standings. So this is as of Sunday, June 8th, as we are recording the standings right now. Minnesota Lynx still undefeated at 9-0 at number 1. Number 2, the undefeated New York Liberty at 8-0. 3 is the Atlanta Dream at 5-3. 4 is the Phoenix Mercury at 6-4. The Aces are at 5 at 4-3. Seattle sitting at 5-4 at number 6. Indiana boosted their way up to number 7 at 4-4. Washington now in the top 10 at number 8 at 4-6. The Valkyries at number 9 at 3-5. The Sparks at 10 with 3-6. The Chicago Sky at 2-5 at 11. Connecticut at number 12 at 2-7. And then in last place right now in the league is this Dallas Wings at 1-9. And before we actually talk the game between the Sky and the Fever, it was a historic moment that happened. First WNBA game ever played at the United Center. When you first heard the schedule announcement and you saw that big of a game was being played in the United Center, what was your first initial reaction, and how excited were you to see a women's game played in such a huge arena?
Well, I was at the game last year in Wintrust. I didn't have to work that game, so I just went as a fan, and it was electric. I mean, it was electric. Whether you were a Fever fan or a Sky game, it was just incredible. So I was very happy. That's my initial reaction, is I was very happy to see that the game was being played at United Center. And then I was like, well, what if it doesn't sell well, right? What if it's like you've got 19,000, what does the United Center hold? 20,000 people? And you've said it on your show, it's the largest, arena in the country. And what if it doesn't sell out? Or what if it's only half full? And is that going to put, the game backwards? Is that going to move it backwards? And then when Clark, when she got hurt, then I was like, oh gosh, no one's going to show up. So I actually did not go. I gave my tickets away to some fans and some friends yesterday. I watched the game from my couch, and to see it on TV, I think you were actually there, but to see it on television, Karli, it looked awesome on TV.
Cool.
They kept showing the wide shots, and it was great. So it was just wonderful. I wish it was a better game. Obviously everyone does, but just how wonderful for the Sky and for the WNBA.
Yeah, at the United Center, I was there, and it really was an even fan showing up of both Sky and Fever, which I was really happy to see. You don't ever, obviously in Chicago, I always kind of want to see more of a hometown than an away team, but with Caitlin Clark and what she's been able to do in bringing eyeballs, you expect to see that. But franchise record, most attended Sky game with 19,000 and some odd fans there. Full sellout, which is fantastic. It was, I believe, the 16th most attended game in the entire WNBA, which is fantastic in WNBA history. So always good to see. Now, this game.
Now we have to talk about the actual game.
Now we got to talk about the game. Oh man, what's crazy is I think you and I both anticipated before the injury that this was going to be a better game than that first matchup. Both teams look very different. I was anticipating a different game.
Right.
And then Courtney Vandersloot goes down. When you saw that injury in the United Center, there was an audible gasp. Everybody held their breath. It was, and you heard, I'm all the way up top in the press box, and I still heard Sloot's yell of pain. And first off, before we get into it, I want to send all the love to Courtney Vandersloot, and I hope she recovers well. But Shimmy, when you saw Sloot go down, it kind of looked on the replay like a non-contact injury too. What was your reaction?
I think it was a non-contact. I know that there was a foul in the play, but I think the contact made by McDonald came after the injury. So I coached college basketball, as you know, for 24 years. And so I've seen that a lot. the planting going up, the shifting, you can actually see the shifting of the knee on my television screen. And then you heard her, like you could hear her. You said in the press box in the arena, we could hear her scream on the television screen. And so I was done. I felt sick. I'm not coaching. I work for Chicago as their game analyst, but I'm not on the team. Like, I'm not a coaching staff. I'm not on the team. I'm not with these guys every day or anything like that. But I felt sick. My heart sunk. And I think it wasn't just the injury. As a coach, I've seen a lot of those. It wasn't just the fact that someone hurt their knee seriously, but it was who it happened to. This is someone who the very last game, the last time we saw her playing in a Sky uniform, she had just broken the record, right? Is that right? Or I'm sorry, 2 games ago, I've broken the record for all-time, leading scorer in franchise history. She didn't have to come back, we assume, to finish out her career in Chicago. She didn't have to do that. She wanted to do that. She won a championship for this organization. She's the first or second in almost every major statistical category in this franchise. She's been through a lot. She's been through, the State Farm arenas and, the no one coming to the games. She's been through the coaching staff changes. She's been through the teammates demanding to be traded. And she stuck with Chicago. She met her wife in Chicago. They're raising their child in this city. And for it to happen to her. So I was sick. I was done. And so if it had that sort of impact on me, I can't even imagine the kind of impact it had on her teammates.
I mean, you could kind of see almost instantly when she went down, the life of that team was gone. It was like they've said it all season, from right when she joined in free agency, through the draft, through training camp, through the preseason, through the start of the season, that she is the engine and the lifeblood of this organization. And to see that engine come to a stop, and everybody came straight around her, she just grimaced. It's just when I didn't see it right, I was literally checking a stat, and then I hear the scream and I look and I see her fall and I catch the replay, and my whole body, I tensed up. She's been in the league for so long, and she's up there in basketball years, not in actual age, but in basketball years. So you sit there and you start to wonder and worry, is this the end of her, not only her season, but could this be the end of her career? And that's something that is really hard for a team that just thoroughly relied on what she was able to do on both sides of the ball. It's hard for them to come back for it. And you saw it almost within seconds of Sloot coming off the floor. You've obviously coached in situations where you've seen injuries like this.
Right.
When you're in a huddle and you see something like this happen to one of your players, what is the messaging that you are trying to get across to your team in a moment where that the emotions can sometimes take over?
We've got to stay focused. We've got to stay present. All right. We've got to lock in. Now's the time that we need one another even more. Everyone else right now has to give a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. But we have got to stay together, and we've got to stay connected, because this is what Sloot would want. If she were out here in this huddle right now, this is what she would be telling us. So we've got to stay focused. Now, with all that being said, it's one thing to be the coach holding the clipboard saying that in a huddle. It's another thing for those athletes, even though they're professionals, even though they're all adults, they're still human. And you heard it, Karli, you're at all the practices. You'd watch all the post-game, pre-game interviews. How many of these players have said that they rely on Sloot for one thing or the other? Camilla said Sloot gives her confidence. I know that if she passes me the ball, that even if I miss, she's going to keep passing me the ball. And she keeps telling me, I got you on the next one. She gives me confidence. Angel, I watch the way she shows up early every day and gets extra work, extra stretching. I watch how she takes care of her body. I mean, so every single player has something like that to say about Courtney. There's a reason why we call her the general on our broadcast. We don't call her the soldier or the infantry woman or the sniper. She's the general. And so I think that in itself, it says a lot about her character and her impact on this team. I think when an injury like that happens, you can go one of two ways. You can either immediately rally around and you can take it up another gear, another level, and we're like win one for the Gipper and you go all out, or else it can be really defeating and deflating. And I think we saw which way it impacted the Sky.
I mean, the Sky had a combined, they gave up 22 turnovers in the entire game, 7 in the first quarter, and 4 of those 7 came after Sloot went down. And they were bad turnovers too. That's the other thing. Obviously, we did see kind of the implosion that happened afterwards. What do you do, when you see that happen? Because if you look at the depth of what this team has, you can ask Hailey Van Lith to take over the point guard, but they wanted to make this a gradual learning process for her.
Right.
Ariel Atkins, not a point guard, really. Rachel Banham, not very much a point guard either. Kia Nurse, she could, but that's not her skill set. Rebecca Allen, she could, but that's not her skill set. What do you do? Who do you like? And also the other thing is because they have Maddie Westbeld and they carry 12 now, if Sloot's out for an extended period of time, 11, and Mariah Jefferson also out with an injury, so that would be your other guard and you don't have her there. So the hardship contract is something that's not really available right now for them to go get a guard. What do you do? Who do you rely on? And I know that's such a huge question, but you need somebody to lead the offense. And who is that?
Well, first of all, this is where coaches make their money, right? So this is where coaches and GMs, where they really make their money and where coaching really has to come into play, because Coach Marsh and his staff, they have to be creative. And I think you saw a little bit of that as the game continued. Obviously, the obvious thing is, well, let's put Hailey Van Lith in as a point. That's her natural position. She played point for her, collegiate career at 3 different schools, but you also saw her being really bothered by the pressure. And that's what I've seen, in the limited minutes that she's gotten this season, is she really struggles with pressure. And so you even saw at one point the adjustment he made is he started having the forward, the post player, whether it was Angel, one time I saw it was Elizabeth Williams, bring the ball down the floor, because then they didn't have to go up against the pressure of McDonald, or even Kelsey Mitchell was applying pressure on the ball in the backcourt, which is something I'm not used to seeing from Kelsey Mitchell. But and so what you saw is Angel would bring the ball up the floor and then she would pass it to Hailey, who would initiate the offense in the quarter court. So I think you're going to see a lot of creativity based on the personnel they have. I think don't be surprised if you see Angel at playing point forward. Don't be surprised if you see them incorporating a lot of drag screens. We haven't seen a lot of drag screens from this team yet this early in the season. Drag screens would be very, very helpful for a guard who's more susceptible to pressure like Hailey. Then you have to worry about, getting Camila in foul trouble, but still drag screens or pressure release screens. I think you might see Ariel at the point, Banham at the point. I think you're going to see a lot of creativity, a lot of different players, personnel playing that position. I think it's going to be like point guard by committee. And then you also, in order to make up for that, you might see some differences, maybe some different things defensively, some different schemes defensively, whether it's applying for full court pressure, more pressing, more zone. Maybe you play slower. Chicago plays at a very high pace, fast pace. So maybe now they're playing at a slower pace. But I think you're going to have to see Coach Marsh adapt to the personnel that he has. And I have confidence in him. I really do. I know this is his first head coaching job, but he's not new to basketball. And the one thing that he did really well is he hired very well. He's got a lot of experience around him.
Yeah, especially, you have Courtney Paris there who does the works with the bigs, but you also have Tanisha Wright, who's been in positions like this before. Right. How much do you rely on her and her knowledge and her experience, because she's literally been in very similar, almost exact positions like this? She has impactful. Yeah.
She's had she started the season several times in Atlanta with promising teams, right? And then has been decimated by injuries, whether it was Ryan Howard was out for a while. Jordan Canada. I mean, I remember last year, if I'm not mistaken, she had 3 key players that were out, 3 starters that were out at the same time with injuries. So I think that's a great call, Karli. You rely on someone on your staff who's been through this before. She's also a great defensive coach as well. She was a great defensive player. And Atlanta had some of the better defensive teams statistically over the last 5 years in different defensive categories. His father on the staff has been a head coach. Rima, one of his assistants, is head coach of the Nigerian team. So he has experience around him.
If you're Coach Marsh in this situation, like, what's running through your mind? Like, you obviously need to make you have to make changes. And the thing is you don't have a lot of time to make these changes because they play on Tuesday against a real tough, you go through something like that and then you have to go play an undefeated New York Liberty team, which is just really hard to try and muster up confidence in your team. Honestly, like, New York's just playing really good basketball right now. They're playing unbelievable basketball and you want to do what you can to limit them. But if you're Marsh, like, what's running through his mind? If you're in his shoes, what is running through his mind right now? Like, honestly,
this is a PG podcast, so I'm going to tell you the first thing that's running through his mind. I can't say on this podcast. So he gets that out of his system, and now he's like, okay, what's next? Because there's so much basketball to be played, and that's the beauty of the sport, is that it's so cliche, Karli, but it truly is a marathon. A season is a marathon. It is not a sprint. There are so many highs and lows in a season. Your goal as a head coach is to stay off the roller coaster, right? Okay. Make it more of a carousel and less of a roller coaster, because so much can happen. Injuries can happen to you, but injuries can also happen to other players or other players on other teams as well. Like, there's a lot that happens in the course of a season. I mean, you just look at the Sky. You look at how they played the first 2.5 games of the season versus take away the Indiana game. After that, the next, 3 games of the season, you look at how they started versus how they were finishing. I mean, even in your last podcast, you talked about the improvement of the Sky and how they were finding their groove. And I have stats, like there's stats that support that. So they were really just starting to click. And then this happens. And like I said, it's not just that they had an injury, it's who that injury occurred to, their general, their point guard, the leader of this team. So now, if you're Tyler, once you get all that out of your system, you have to, he probably hasn't slept much, to be honest with you. I'm just talking to you like, like a coach. He probably hasn't slept much at all. He's probably been meeting with his coaching staff the majority of the time, and Jeff Pagliacca, his GM. You're right. We don't have enough time. We can't feel sorry for ourselves anymore. We've got to figure this out. So we have to figure out how we can, 1, stay together as a team, stay connected, and then 2, try to be as competitive as we can and keep games as close as we can so that we can eke out some wins, because they're still fighting for their playoff lives. I said before the season started, after having a chance to call their game in Brazil, call their first 2 preseason games, that I felt like this team was better than last year's team. And I still stand by that. The offense against the Fever after Sloot went down, it really reminded me of last year's offense, which is pretty bad. And so that's the first time that I felt that way. So I still feel like if this team can make the playoffs, which is what I felt like after the first 3 preseason games, if this team can make the playoffs, then that's success and they're trending in the right direction.
Yeah, it's one of those things now where you just kind of sit there, and I've sat here too, kind of going through like, what's your lineup? Now you have to look at what your lineup construction is going to be like. And this is the first time we've seen extended minutes out of Hailey Van Lith all season. Like, this was, right. I would agree, the pressure very much got to her. And when I spoke to her earlier in the week, for the first time, I actually got to like talk to her, which was cool. Like, I got to meet her and like have some conversations with her. And I asked her, I said, this is the first WNBA game in the United Center. Have you ever played in something like this? And like, what's your energy around it? And she goes, I'm really nervous. Like, I'm nervous to be on it. And guess what? Like, it showed. Yeah. And now you want to see her kind of step up. But at the same time, you can't ask that much of her because she's still a rookie, only 6 games in.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what they went through last year
With
when
Elizabeth
Elizabeth
Williams. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, when Ewell went down and
Yeah.
Camilla had to step up. And
She,
so
she wasn't ready for that. Camila was
No.
not ready to be a starter at this level, and she was kind of thrust into that a little prematurely. We don't know how better her development would have been over the course of the season had she had that chance to grow into that with Elizabeth Williams, you know, under her tutelage. And but it is what it is, and that's basketball, and that's why it's a sport that we love so much. It breaks our heart, but yet we just keep coming right back to it, kind of like that girlfriend that we just can't walk away from, right? I mean, it as a coach, it will, I mean, this sport will break your heart time and time again, but but it will also bring you so much joy.
You're kind of psychotic if you love basketball, honestly. It's like self-torture sometimes. You sit there. It's also so mental. And the one thing now, obviously you look towards New York. I don't want to say it's an automatic loss. I don't like saying that, but I mean, both New York and Minnesota are playing the best version of basketball in the WNBA, period. Like there's no team that's playing as sound as those two are. What do you ask of the Sky heading into this game? Do you just ask for them to be competitive? I mean, obviously you're pushing for a win. You're never preaching, you know, let's just do our best. Like you're preaching to go and win a game. But against such a tough opponent, and they're also on a road stretch now too, because you play Atlanta, I believe, and then Connecticut.
Right.
So you have a winnable game against Connecticut. Atlanta looks really good right now too, but you could say that's winnable. When you look at what this week poses for the Sky, first off, what are your expectations out of them? And then what are your expectations? What do you sell your team heading into New York?
The expectations don't change, right?
Okay.
The circumstances change. The way we meet those expectations will probably have to change, but the expectations are the expectations. They don't change. The Sky needs to continue to work on their on-court chemistry. They need to continue to work on their turnovers. They need to continue to work on like finishing games. You look at, in anticipation of being on this podcast, I know you're a numbers person, and so I did that. I looked up some stuff, and like if you look at Chicago's first 3 games, they were 13th out of 13 teams, and field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, free throw attempts, free throw percentage, assists per game, and points per game. The last 3 games, just look at the last 3 games. I'm taking away Indiana. All right. So their last 3 games, their first 3, their last 3. They 40, almost 45% field goal percentage. That would put them 5th in the league right now. 23 free throw attempts per game. That would put them 2nd in the league. 81% free throw percentage. That would put them 4th in the league. 24 assists per game. That would put them 1st in the league. 93 points per game. That would put them 1st in the league. So that's how they were trending, right? Took a major step back, but I cannot blame them. They lose the general. They watch her, right? So now how do we move forward? Well, we want to take those numbers and we want to try to keep building on those numbers. The expectations, they don't change. The circumstances have changed. Yeah. But the expectations don't.
That makes sense. I do want to ask you about one player in particular that I believe should be in the starting lineup, which is Rebecca Allen. Now I understand Marsh's sentiment in saying you want to sometimes keep that electricity coming off the bench so you don't lose it, and you want to continue to build off of what the starting lineups are. I totally get that sentiment. But now that you don't have Sloot, I feel like you need to have that energy in your starting lineup, and you replace Nurse with Allen. What have you seen out of Rebecca Allen throughout, these, and I'm going to say including the Indiana Fever game, because she was really the only offense in that game. And that was only with 8 points too. But what have you seen out of her? And is she somebody that should be in the starting rotation?
So her energy, her confidence, her consistency, I think she's had like one game where the Phoenix game where she only got 1 field goal attempt in that Phoenix game. But other than that, been very, very consistent. And that, I think that's when a coach says they don't want to mess with that. I think that's like what he's talking about, because you never know how someone is going to react as a starter versus coming off the bench. It's a totally different mindset that you have to have. And she's very comfortable. So you don't want to mess with that rhythm. But when I said the expectations are the same, but the circumstances have changed, This is a great example of that. The circumstances have changed. So now maybe it's what's best for the team to start you. She was one of my leading candidates in the league for 6th player of the year. Kind of like last year, Kennedy Carter was, and then Kennedy Carter moved into the starting lineup. You lose a lot of bench production when that happened last year. So whatever you lose with Rebecca Allen, if you move her to the starting lineup, say you move Ariel Atkins over to the 1, say Haley Van Lith's not ready to start. So you move Ariel Atkins over to the 1, and then you replace Rebecca Allen, you move Rebecca Allen into Ariel Atkins' spot. And so now you can bring Banham or Van Lith off, in that 1 spot as needed. Whatever it is, I'm not in his film room or in his coach's room, so I don't know what he's going to do. So, but the circumstances have changed. I think you have to seriously consider moving a player like Rebecca Allen and finding her in the starting spot, because you can't afford to get in holes. Sloot wasn't just a great passer. Sloot also could score. I mean, in fact, she had scored early. She had scored the first 2 points, if I'm not mistaken, for the Sky, against the Fever. So she's more than capable scorer as well. And she's also a pretty good defender. She doesn't get enough credit. She's smart, she's a smart defender. So now you've got Rebecca Allen, who can score, who can rebound, and who can defend. Rebecca Allen is a 3-way scorer. She can get into the paint with her length. She's got a nice mid-range jumper. And of course, we know that she can shoot threes. At her best, you take a look at what she did with Connecticut a few years ago in the playoffs. I mean, she was averaging over 10 points a game. So we know what she's capable of if given the minutes and opportunities. So she's a great example of where the circumstances have changed.
You make a great point about Sloot, because Marsh said after the game that not only was she a facilitator, she was also an organizer. Yeah. And I was like, that's a great way of describing what that impact is. She was able to keep things organized on the court. Right. And I thought that was such a great moment and a great soundbite. Everybody after the game, just in that press room, you felt the somberness, you felt the sadness, you felt the heartache, you felt just it felt like a death, honestly. Yeah, it really did. Yeah. It was so painful. And I sit there and you sometimes want to ask those tough questions, but after something like that happens and you see, like you said, the floor general is gone, I anticipated a discombobulated Sky. And that's exactly what we got.
And that's exactly what we got. It was congested. It wasn't organized. The turnovers were crazy turnovers. But then Rebecca, she was a spark. Rebecca Allen was a spark. She was very confident. She didn't back down. I thought her maturity really, was present in that game after Sloot got hurt.
She really was. The other thing that I witnessed from, because sometimes when you're watching that game, and I think you are in a different position than I am sometimes because you're calling it, so you have to stay active in it. But there are times where I'm sitting there watching the game and I'm like, is it over yet? Like, I don't want to sit and watch this, like, it was just bad basketball. Like, there's no other way to put it. It was just a really sloppy, bad game. And, I really hope that this is not the case for the rest of the season. And Haley Van Lith said a great quote. She goes, if this is, whatever this moment is, we're not going to, I'm paraphrasing, but whatever this moment is, we're going to let this moment mean something for us later on.
Right.
And to hear that out of a rookie I think Sky fans should get a little bit of hope out of that. Maybe not much, because you have to kind of see what happens here throughout the rest of the season for the Sky. Before we get into the WNBA, make sure you follow us on all platforms at Courtside KB. That's Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads. What else? TikTok, at Courtside KB. I forget them all. At Courtside KB. If you're a reader, please check out our website, which is courtsidewithkarlibell.com, where I'm going to have something building off what Shimmy and I just spoke about on our website about what this means for Courtney Vandersloot being out. Check that out. And then make sure you want exclusive content like film breakdowns, history lessons, all that jazz. Make sure you join our Patreon at Courtside with Karli Bell. There's 2 tiers. You got that zone tier, which just means you want to support the pod. And you know what? I appreciate you. That's great. But you're not going to get that exclusive content. You don't want to know where you get that exclusive content is in that man-to-man tier. $6. You pay more for Netflix and Hulu, all of that, than you would for it being in that man-to-man tier. And those come out on Thursdays. So make sure you check all of that out. All right, Shimmy, let's get into the rest of the WNBA. We've talked about Minnesota, and you and I could just talk about how gorgeous Minnesota and New York are.
You want to talk about offense that flows.
Oh,
Oh my
man.
goodness.
Napheesa, I want to ask you though about Napheesa Collier, because everyone, for me, right now, she's the runaway MVP.
Yeah.
Just what she's done for that team.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, she's not the MVP because even when she was out, they still won. And I'm like, but that also shows her leadership and what she's able to do off the court, on the bench, and be that spark and that energy and that conversation for them. What have you seen? I feel like it's just, we're seeing Napheesa play at a new energy. Like there's just like this like fire in her right now. And I think a lot of it has to do with that finals loss last year. But what have you seen out of her?
No, I agree with you. I really do. I agree with you. Minnesota's a team, and I think they get it from their coach. They have their coach's personality. I mean, they were still talking about last year's finals loss. We played them in 2 preseason games. And in the press, they were still referring to last year's loss. Like they haven't forgotten about it. And so I do think that Napheesa is playing at a different level. I thought she was elite last year. Really it was like neck and neck, her and A'ja Wilson for MVP and Defensive Player of the Year. And then I think she's taken it to another level. You look at what she did with her own league, the Unrivaled League. I mean, she was the MVP of her Unrivaled League this winter. So I think she's just more confident. She's not saying that she wasn't confident before, but I just think she's owning it. I think she's carrying herself like she's an MVP. And she's, because I've known Napheesa, I recruited her. I've sat in her living room with her and her parents. I've known Napheesa since she was 16 years old. And she's always, and still is, but always been very humble, kind of like, oh, shucks, all these coaches are coming in here to see me. I can't believe that. I'm that good. Well, now I think she's carrying herself like, yes, Napheesa, you are that good. But right now I agree with you. I think if the season ended today, she'd be MVP. But we still have a lot of season left to be played too.
So much basketball, 44 games, man. That's crazy. So many games in so little time. That's a conversation for another day. There's another team though, for me personally, I've spoken about them almost every single week, but it really is the Washington Mystics. They have just surprised me. I will sit here and be like, yo, I underestimated your game. I'm sorry, because even against top teams, they're incredibly competitive. And from what I've seen out of them is I believe that they're just a young team that knows they're in the rebuild, and they're like, yeah, we're the young team, we're going to just go hoop. And there's not like anything more than that. That's just kind of the energy. I've been a Sonia Citron fan. We've talked about it for a while that I thought she was very much, I thought if this guy did keep that number 3 pick, she would have come here to Chicago. But what have you seen out of Washington? Or I'm going to put it to you in another way. Is there another team that kind of has surprised you in what they've been able to do this season?
Golden State has surprised me. Golden State has surprised me because I didn't know if they'd win any games at all. And I know this is going to sound so disrespectful, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but all the players that they have were like players that basically the other teams in the league said, we don't really care if we lose you or not, right? Like or we'll be fine if we lose you, or that's what an expansion draft like is. So it's kind of like, what is it? The land of the misfit toys, and they're all on this team, and they've got this incredible energy and support behind them in the community, and that place is rocking. And I've watched a few of their games, and they are competing, or they're beating the Aces, and they shouldn't be, or competing through 3 quarters with Minnesota, and they shouldn't be, right? So they've really surprised me. I think Veronica Burton, this has been a great fit for her. She's coming off a 12 assist, 0 turnover game. She's someone who's taken her a couple years to hang on. I mean, she's on is this her 3rd team now?
I believe so.
Dallas, Connecticut, and now Golden State, her 3rd team in like 4 years. But I think she's finally found a fit. So Golden State has really surprised me. But you're right, Washington. But you've got Kiki Iriafen, you have Sonia Citron, you have these young ones, Jade Melvin, and Leah Edwards, and then you've got a few vets mixed in there, Sykes, and you've got Dolson, and then Shakira just played again today. So I think they have a great coach. We know Sydney from the Sky. He was an assistant on the staff last year. He was great. You knew he was really good with X's and O's. He was someone that Coach Spoon, you could see him talking a lot in huddles. Emre is on his staff, also a former Sky. Shelly Patterson is on the staff, also former Sky assistant coach. So that's an older veteran coaching group, and they just look like they're having a lot of fun. I like Washington as well. So Washington and Golden State have really surprised me.
I've always been a huge fan of Brittany Sykes' game. I love Slim. I love how she plays. She also is she makes it fun. And I think you know what I mean by that. Like, she'll go out there and she'll be like, ooh, ooh, and then she'll like cook you on it. And then she'll just like point at you and just be like, well, I love her attitude. I love how she approaches the game, as well as Dejanay Carrington. Also always been a huge fan of her. I feel very bad for Dallas right now, and with what they're going through, not being able to find any type of wins. But another team that really surprised me, and I think it's because they've gone through so much adversity to start the season, is the Phoenix Mercury. They've been just littered with injuries, and I had them pegged to finish just shy of the playoffs because I saw what their big three was, and I said, but who do you have after that? Where's your depth?
Right.
And they've really proven that Lexi Held has really done a great job. I mean, obviously, Alyssa Thomas hasn't played the last couple games, and I said last week, I just underestimate how powerful she can be. But you still have Satu, you have Lexi Held, you also have Sammy Wickham over there. Is Phoenix I don't like saying a dark horse, but are they kind of like a dark horse team right now?
I mean, we started this podcast talking about injuries and how you can handle injuries. And Phoenix is a lesson in that. They're showing how you handle injuries, like literally next player steps up. Now, this is what I think makes Phoenix different and unique. Is they're a new team and they have a lot of rookies, but they're not a young team. So they have 5 rookies on their team. So there's 8 undrafted rookies in this league. Phoenix has 4 of them. You mentioned Lexi Held. She's one of them. Catherine Westbeld is one. Maddie's sister.
Yeah.
And then they have 2 other that are undrafted rookies. And so they have 5 rookies total on their team, though. But they're older rookies. So their rookies range in age from like 26 to like 29 or 31 or something like crazy like that. You'll have to like look that up, stat up, because I know I'm not wrong on that. They have old rookies.
Yeah.
So new players, but still veterans in the sense that they're mature, that they are hungry, because these are players who have been dying to get on with the team for years. I mean, you mentioned Lexi Held. She graduated from DePaul. She was in training camp with the Sky, I think in 2020, 21, something like that, and didn't make it past training camp. So they go back overseas for the last 4, 5, 6 years, and now they get a shot. And Mac is out, and Cockhopper is out, and Alyssa Thomas is out, and we are going to run with it. We're going to run with our opportunities. So I think that's what makes them a little bit different. On paper, they got all these rookies. How are they doing this? But they're rookies, but they're not really rookies.
Yeah, it's like when Rebecca Gardner was on this guy.
Exactly.
Everyone kept talking like the 33-year-old rookie, and they're like, she's got all that experience. That's someone else I'm very happy to see back playing after she was out with an injury. Shimmy, I am so glad that you joined me this week. I'd love to have you back. Hopefully we can talk more positive things about the Sky next time. That's what we're hoping for. But Shimmy, before we go, why don't you let everyone know where they can find you, follow you for all your amazing basketball takes?
I'm on Instagram. I try to do as much as I can. It's Shimmy Miller 33, Blue Sky, Shimmy Miller 33, and Threads, Shimmy Miller 33.
There we go.
Pretty simple.
Pretty simple and easy. Love it. All right, Shimmy, thank you so much for joining me here. Make sure you follow us at Courtside KB. Check out our website, Courtside with Karli Bell, and our Patreon, Courtside with Karli Bell. And I will see you next time on the sidelines.